But tonight we're going to be showing you different ways of using those Post-it notes and how helpful it can be. And they can help you solve a multitude of problems and accomplish a bunch of tasks. They're really great to have around. So before we do that, I'd just like to introduce myself. I'm Marianne Morrison, and Kathleen Sinnott is trying to remove the sticky from her camera as she manages our production booth. And together we are the BA Zone. If you have any questions or comments during the show, please feel free to join in. Or if you just want to hang out with us and pick up a few pointers, that's fine too. Everybody's welcome. So make yourself comfortable and relax and open up your mind while Kathleen kicks off the show with our intro music. Kathleen. Okay, rocking it out. Thanks, Kathleen. Okay, so, many times as BAs, our job comes down to picking the right tools or techniques to get the job done. And when faced with a problem or a task, many of us, because we're in the technology sector or close to it, we immediately turn towards our techie tools. But there are a lot of low-tech and easy-to-use tools that are just as efficient and when used appropriately, make your job much easier. So tonight, I give you the Post-it note, also referred to as sticky notes. Post-it note, of course, being the 3M brand. What are some of the benefits of using Post-it notes? Now, I'm sure a lot of you have used them in different scenarios, but just to go over the benefits, they're portable. They come in a multitude of shapes and sizes, and you can take them anywhere. And like I said, different sizes. You can see that on there, and you have the bigger ones, and they even come in much bigger sheets. And of course, you can cut them, and there's dots. There's all different types, and we use them ad nauseum. But you can stick and unstick them. They're pretty fluid, just like ideas that are written on them. They are visual and versatile. Visual by using, different colors and shapes help you to easily identify patterns and gaps and bring order to chaos. They're very versatile. They can be used to solve problems, to brainstorm new ideas, just to take notes. There's no right or wrong way to use them. You can draw on them. You can put words on them, sentences, pictures, symbols, whatever you choose. So, they're very versatile in that way. They really do help improve collaboration and broaden perspectives when you're using them in a group setting. Getting everyone involved at a level that everyone can participate. There's no software to learn here. There's no learning curve. And all of the levels of the playing field, it's leveled because we're removing bias of where an idea came from. Everybody's focused more on, when you're using these appropriately, the idea, the task, or the flow, not necessarily on who put it there, right? So everybody's focused on this little tiny piece of paper that has so much power in it. And they allow you to be creative and expansive because they're sort of these non-threatening little pieces of paper, and you can go wild with them. They're sort of temporary. Nobody's worried too much that what they put on them will become, solid truth until it's further looked into. They help everyone to be focused and finite because of their size. It sort of forces everybody to be very efficient and to move on, because a lot of people can get hung up in the details. You start talking about things and 100 other little details come up. Now you can create 100 other little stickies and you can evaluate them later, but they really focus in on getting a certain task, a certain idea out and done. You can't put, just by their virtual size, you can't put a lot of notes on a sticky. At least you shouldn't try to anyway. And the nice thing too about sticky notes is that there is no distraction associated with them as there would be technology. We've all been in these meetings where you're trying to get requirements down or you're trying to work through a flow process, and everybody else is on their computers. They're doing something else. Um, this is sort of a low-level distraction type of tool. Everybody just has the paper and the pencil, and they get going and they start working. And that leads us to the other benefit, is that they're very actionable, the sticky notes. When you go from talking to physically doing something, physically writing something down, which is how most of us remember things, really remember things, by writing it down. It sort of changes people's mindset. They get excited, they're engaged, and they become more goal oriented. And that direct involvement helps set expectations down the line. So those are just sort of like 5 major benefits. So that's the power of these little blank sticky pieces of paper. And that's why, 3M, the makers of Post-it notes, do about 1 billion in sales annually. And they're not the only ones out there that are producing sticky notes. That's just sort of the brand name that everybody knows, but there are other companies out there doing that. So you can imagine how much we use this, and we use it all the time in business. There are a few disadvantages to using sticky notes. So when they're best used when you're doing like brainstorming in a group or team setting where everyone's on site, unless you're using some type of technical sort of brainstorming tool, which is out there, but we're not talking about that tonight. So it works really better for on-site collaboration. Once you start getting into the other software, that, there's that learning curve again, and people again can get easily distracted because you're not even looking at them face to face. So, they could be doodling off doing something else. So that's one of the disadvantages. And there's also, we use a lot of colors on, different color stickies. And for those folks who are visually impaired or colorblind, it's a little more difficult, but I mean, you can still work through it. You just have to, instead of the color, draw a symbol or something so that people can still follow the patterns. It's not as easy for them, but if you make that symbol prominent enough, then they can participate as well. Okay. And just before we actually get into the power of Post-its and how we use them to solve problems we encounter or get our tasks done, I just want to take a minute to welcome all of our newcomers to the community. Welcome, welcome. We really appreciate you taking the time to let us mentor you and mentor each other when you get together. And if you haven't done so, we want to invite all of you to sign up for our mailing list so you can be the first one to find out about our upcoming events, classes, and free stuff. We collect minimal information. We don't share that information with anyone. And you can also like and follow us on Facebook. And if you're on YouTube, you can subscribe and hit the little bell icon, and you'll get notified when we go live. So please join our community and help us make it a place where we can share our experiences and give each other a hand, because that's what it's all about. And I'm going to give you a hand right now. If you have not used Post-it notes in the past, or if you're a new BA, they are really going to help you, especially the new BAs out there. We've all heard about how they're used during brainstorming, but I'll briefly go over that. I'm just going to go over, I think it's 5 different uses tonight that we use on a regular basis for the sticky notes. So when you're brainstorming, you're going to start with a problem, identify a problem, and then you can pass out these sticky notes to everybody, the Post-it notes, and they're going to put down a whole bunch of potential causes for this problem. This is in the case where there is a problem. There could be other things where we just want to expand the product, and that would be more of a solutions type based thing. But if there is a problem, maybe you're not hitting a certain revenue, maybe there's an actual issue in the process of steps. Everyone can list out who's involved, the potential, what they think might be the potential causes, and they can be discussed then. And you want to identify the one sticky that's really the root cause. And once you get down to that root cause, you can start again with stickies, pass them out, and everybody can create potential solutions. If you're trying to come up with a new product, it's the same thing. Everybody throw the stickies out there, and you can put all of these ideas, the crazier the better, everything's welcome. Once that process is all done, then the same folks get together in groups and they group the ideas. They evaluate the ideas. Some of those ideas may spawn new ideas, and they can add stickies to it. It's a really quick way of fleshing out solutions, getting a whole bunch of a broad spectrum of opinions, potential solutions. You can rank the ideas in the same manner by taking yet another sticky and saying, putting a dot sticky maybe on the solution that you think will best meet everyone's needs, and maybe that's the idea that you go with. So again, stickies, very powerful use. Brainstorming, one of the most popular uses. Another use, a second use, would be to diagram out a process. We do a lot of workflows, a lot of task flows, functional flows. And stickies are great for documenting an existing process. It sort of identifies all of the complexities and the different roles that are involved, and it can identify gaps and pain points and opportunities. You can see patterns of duplication of efforts or inefficiencies. And it's great for BAs who might be new, or maybe they're slightly introverted BAs who have not yet gotten into the skill of, facilitation techniques and interview techniques, to quickly get information by getting a group involved. And actually the group does the work for you. I mean, everybody can, it's sort of a fast and iterative thing. And the way you do this is, as a group, or as the BA, you identify a process that needs to be mapped out. Maybe there is no documentation, and maybe you want to do, this is the as-is process as it is today. And, over time, different departments, if you're working in a company, might think one department is doing something when they're not actually doing it anymore. So there's not this full understanding of the concept from beginning to end of whatever service or product that you're putting out there. So once you identify what process you want to map out, again, you want a cross-functional team in that room, and you're going to pass out Post-its or the sticky notes. And in this case, you could use one color and have them list what they think are the major steps in the process. So right then and there, you're sort of facilitating this, but you don't have to ask a tremendous amount of questions yet as a BA. They're doing the work for you. And a lot of times this can be under the guise of, we want to get together to make sure everybody's on the same sort of path, wavelength, that everybody's understanding, and because we haven't looked at this in a while. So once you get those major tasks, you have everybody agree, is this the major tasks? Is this what we think it is? You'd be surprised what some people come up with, and some people didn't know that was a major task, and some people didn't know it was a task at all, or maybe it's an obsolete task that this department over here thought was still happening. This happens all the time. This is not an unusual thing, especially in larger companies. So once you get those major tasks down, you can put them up on a whiteboard and say, okay, these are the major steps. Then you want to look at each one of those steps individually, and again, turn to the stickies to try to clarify the steps, where, and if you have more than one, if everybody's sort of, once you review these sort of steps, anything that's not clear can be clarified by the group. Anything that's duplicate can, because they're sticky, you can stack them right behind each other, to sort of collate tasks that are like, and if they're sort of similar, or maybe they can be discussed. And once you do that, then you start to put them in a sequence, in a logical flow. And you want to note, again, any interdependencies, what tasks or actions need to be completed before the next one can be started. But again, the group is doing most of the work, and you're facilitating the process of putting all these steps down and then getting everyone involved in a discussion. And once you do, you break that down and you repeat the steps and you refocus everything. You can start to become creative, right? And for each group that's working on this, you could identify a particular role that performs a task. and you could use a particular color for the sticky. And that is a great visual to quickly see who does what in a flow process. You may have to draw some swim lines on a whiteboard when you're doing this, so that you can move the stickies back and forth and who does what in each role. You can identify decisions and sub-processes, and again, the pain points, redundancies, maybe where you have customer contact points or input areas or output areas, or things like confirmation numbers, purchase orders, invoices. Whatever you're doing, you're just trying to be consistent. And you can have the little legend running on the white side of the whiteboard, saying, well, for example, in the case we like to use, well, I like to use like the hot pink to say it's a function. If I'm working in a particular application, skip, a save next, a save and continue, a cancel, that type of thing. So just pick a color and say that's what this is going to be. The main orange color is a main task. Everything else, green, is a subtask, that type of thing. And once all the stickies are in the correct order, then you can attach the flow lines just like you would if you were drawing each, if you were the BA and facilitating the conversation, saying what happens next, what happens next. The people in the room have done all that. Now we just have to connect all the check boxes. And bingo, you have your flow. You would then transfer it, obviously, over, into a Visio or some kind of a drawing type thing. But you're going to take a photograph of it so you have it for posterity. And as you go along, you could be making decisions. So, for example, if there's a particular process that someone thought was still happening, it's not anymore. It's archived. Just, again, put it behind the process that's currently in place. So you never really lose what you talked about. It's all there. You're taking a picture. If you're afraid things are going to fall apart afterwards, you could staple all those historical things together. But again, it's a way for a BA to document a flow process by actually having the users confirm and actually spell out what that process is. And that type of thing converts to a lot of different processes that we do. If you're looking to group information, a third use that we use a lot for, to get consensus around something, maybe you're ranking something as to the level of importance. Maybe you're strategizing about what you should do with your clients, which clients you should focus on. Everybody would like to think we focus on all the clients equally, but everyone knows, depending on what our goal is, we are going to focus on some clients over others. So when we're strategizing, if you're in marketing, perhaps, and you're strategizing, you may be looking at the size of the client, the market share, the position, what type of channels they have, what type of campaigns you want to put out there to attract customers. What are some, you might want to identify key metrics, KPI, key performance indicators. And again, get folks in a room, have them identify all this information, then categorize it and potentially rank it. These are some of the things that move quickly because people are taking action. They're physically writing on a ticket, a sticky. It goes much further than just chatting and sitting back and talking about it and listening to people. It actually gets people motivated and engaged. It transcribes very well for project planning or product roadmaps or management. For our shows, I use stickies to try to identify the key pieces that we're going to be talking about, and then all the little sub details underneath it. So if you're talking about project planning, you might, it's a good way to do a feature analysis or prioritize features. Maybe you're doing it quarterly, or maybe you're doing it by release. Maybe you're talking to users and having them rate the features that they would like to have developed next and why that's important. Is it a client feature that needs to be done, client request, or is it something we want to do internally to move our product along? It'll help you in a project sense to identify all the tasks. You can list them out on stickies. Identify all the dependencies. Maybe there are software needs that we need to purchase, or that in addition to building features, there's something that we need to purchase, and we want to plan that in. So stickies can be used for that too. And again, it's that visual. It's putting things one color or another color and grouping things to see patterns, because it's all about the patterns, and that's the way we move things forward pretty quickly. My favorite uh, use of the stickies is during the design process or design thinking to flesh out use cases and functional requirements. This is my favorite. I don't know how many people use this. I use it all the time, and I think it's a really great way to prototype quickly, to move elements around and ensure they are consistent. And Kathleen and I both know, and I actually am just realizing this now because Kathleen Kathleen knows. She has been doing comps and wireframes for a really long time, and for a really long time I've been directing people to create comps and wireframes. But when you have to do those yourself, one little change on a comp, there could be 20 comps that actually walk you through a user using the interface. And one little change may have to be made at a minimum to 20 different wireframes. When you're first starting to design, or helping, if you have no web designer, especially when you're first starting to lay out these screens so that you can put it in front of people and say, what do you think, users specifically? You don't want to be starting by creating all of these wireframes that you're then going to have to change a multitude of times. At least I don't want to do that. I prefer to use stickies. And what I do is I'll take a piece of drawing paper, just like this, and I'll just sort of create containers. So, for example, if you had a page that had 2 tabs on it, and then you had to put all of this information into each tab, Post-it notes work really well. So I take the Post-it notes, I create field labels, and I make sticky checkboxes, sticky radio buttons, sticky drop-down list arrows, scroll bars, search icons, and then I group the data logically the way I think it should be. And it's so much easier to take these little tiny pieces of paper and move them around, and they really stick for quite a long time on like this drawing paper or types of paper. So you don't have to worry about it falling off. But again, you can number them so you know the position they're supposed to be in. You can use different colors. I use different colors for user input areas. Maybe a little red dot to indicate that it's a required field, a required element. I use different colors for functional buttons like the save, the add, the edit, the update, the cancel. And it helps me flesh out use cases or user stories. Um, you know, what would users, as you're going through this design, potentially want to see or do? And it could, it depends on what you're creating, obviously, but do they need tooltips? Do they need some type of directional content? Do they need sound bites? Notes or comment fields, or do they need to read reviews, make a review, make a purchase, add a favorite, add something to the cart, check it out, Um, and it's if you're having problems visualizing a certain functionality, use stickies. It will help you. You can just keep, create a page, take a picture of it, rearrange the next page with other stickies, take a picture of it, um, and put that in front of people before you start creating wireframes and comps, especially if you're really unsure of all the data that's required. When you get down to the use case level and the functional, we just had this the other day. We sort of, I'll give you a little brief, quick thing of what we were working on. Um, we had a list or a grid of potential items. When you clicked on that grid, you would get a detail page, and we were trying to match certain information coming in from one file to information coming in on another file. And everything had to be addressed before you went to the next record. And we were using what we call a save and get next, which is based on how the user filtered the particular grid or the list. If they pulled up a record and hit save and get next, the next record would automatically come up. So they wouldn't have to navigate back out to the list. In doing that, well, I realized that we didn't have enough sort of save type buttons because there was an instance or a use case where somebody may not select everything from here to match to here. So then we had to have a save and continue button. Had I not done that with those stickies, that probably wouldn't have been apparent to me. And it probably would have become a navigation issue, or the developer would bring it up later and stop me from doing what I'm currently doing to go back and work on this requirement. So it really helps you find gaps when you lay things out like that. Is it necessary? No, you can go back to just doing business requirements, but they're not going to be complete business requirements. It's always good to create a picture of what you're doing, whether you pass that picture along to someone else or not, but typically we do. And we discuss it with the developers to see what they think and if they could improve upon that design. So that is my favorite thing to do with stickies. Yes, I'm a sticky freak. I spend a lot of money on Post-its and stickies. And I'm sure a lot of development departments do as well, and other companies that I've worked for. So I don't know. Let me just go back and check, see what's going on. I don't know if you've ever done anything else with stickies, drop us a comment or a line, let us know how you use Post-its or stickies to solve your problems. And that sort of, I think that just sort of wraps us to we've got about 3 minutes to go. So stickies, Post-it notes, add them to your toolkit. You won't be disappointed. You'll find all different things to use them with. Again, great for collaboration, great for solving problems, either with a group or problems you're having on your own, because they're so versatile, they're so movable. I think they're a great asset, a great tool to your toolkit. And I would recommend using them, And again, you're going to have fun with them. They're pretty. They're pretty little pieces of paper. Who could not like little sticky Post-it notes? Sort of addicted to them myself. Got them all over the house. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed tonight's show, and I really want to thank everybody for stopping by. Again, if you have any questions or comments, or you're watching the show after the fact, which we know a lot of our folks do on the replay, just drop us a line, go to the BA Zone. Kathleen will put up there all of the places that you can get in touch with us. TheBAZone.com, that's our website. We're on Instagram.com at the BA Zone, Periscope TV, the BA Zone, Facebook.com, the BA Zone, and YouTube.com, the BA Zone. You can catch all our previous shows out there on YouTube and on some of them on our website as well, too. All right, everybody. That wraps up our show tonight. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you again next week on the BA Zone Live. Take care of each other. Good night.